What's up? This is Bboy Lancer here at the Calamity Corner. Today's episode is going to be based on my boy Andy, aka Bboy AGame.
What's up, y'all? It's AGame, repping Hybrid Crew since 2006, repping Style Elements Crew since August 2011. From San Jose, California, Bay Area Styles, West Coast Styles rep.
I think that you brought up a really good point when we were talking upstairs. We just had a practice. And you're talking about, it's not what you do, it's also not how you do it, it's also the feeling behind it. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I just remember hearing this phrase people would throw around, it's not what you do, it's how you do it, And it was sort of like one of those adages that kids can pick up and immediately just have something click in their brains. But that's only if they're ready. A lot of kids, they could misconstrue that in a lot of ways, and they'll keep looking at that on the surface level, and that's what I thought. I think a lot about mirror dancers, people who try to create their style by looking at themselves in a mirror. Well, to me, when you're looking inside a mirror trying to dance, you're crafting yourself into someone you think you're supposed to be, rather than who you are. So what I wanted to do was add on to that adage and say, it's not what you do, it's how you do it, but most importantly, it's how you feel when you do it. Because the thing that's most important about dance is it's not if you're genuine to other people, for OGs, for anyone, it's if you're genuine to yourself. Because then if you're genuine to yourself, it's not just to improve your dancing, it's to improve your life. To just act every single day with genuineness, to be authentic, to be who you are truly. And all that really comes down to is how you feel when you act. If there's any inkling of doubt when you talk or when you move, the people who have taken that journey to understand themselves, they'll see it.
That's an interesting point, because when you're practicing and you're training your craft, it's very a soul search kind of experience. Absolutely. Really trying to find yourself.
Absolutely.
Sometimes people will tell you stuff like, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. But now, shit like that gets thrown around so much that sometimes people lost the value of it because the practice of that craft isn't there. So in order for people to really, understand that concept, one must really try to pretty much practice, put in the work, right?
Yeah.
So then, so what's this whole idea about feeling?
Feeling. If you're gonna be about what you're doing, if you're gonna be a craftsman in any art, you want to be able to put your feeling, your message, your history, your personal embodiment into whatever you do. You create your craft. You are the master at the end of the day. There is no, granted there is reaction. I was actually just talking to my girl about this, how much of yourself is created in reaction to how others perceive you, and how much is you being genuine. And you can't necessarily choose one extreme over the other, because the two live inside a dialectical relationship. It's always a dialogue between, how am I being perceived? How do I feel about myself? But I feel like the gradual thing is that if you take that time to really understand yourself, you actually make that move on that spectrum from perceiving yourself through others towards how honestly you know your own self. And the only way for me, at least I translated through dancing, was to dance with true feeling.
You think that the things that you just said, getting the feeling and the environment and all that, how do you think this complements your style? You have an original style that, and I feel like people need to really understand where it comes from before they start to, dissect it themselves. I want to know your why, why do you dance this way? This idea of feeling, how do you put that into your dance? Because the thing is, people say certain things, but when they show it's different interpretations, because it's different kinds of bodies involved. So what do you feel?
That's how I'd hope to see other people doing, the same thing. What it was is growing up being Cambodian. That was one thing. Because in my life, I was growing up and I was not being indoctrinated into Buddhist thought, but Buddhist thought was put up as food for thought by my mom. She would put up there just random ideas from Buddhist thought, and I'd really just begin to pay attention as I grew up and started learning about them. The idea of being mindful, or the phrase a lot of people say is be here now, to be fully present. When I was early in the game, I sort of came up with this to sort of be my guide, a phrase to sort of be my guide. That I wanted people that when they saw me dance, I wanted them to experience my feeling in that moment, in that context, of that song, through me. To be here now with me. To be mindful of the moment and the beauty that this dance is with me. And then I think I was able to really channel this energy that sort of caught people's eyes, Not in the sense that I was doing anything flashy, I wasn't, hitting corks in the middle of the battle or anything like that. I was just being myself. I was dancing and I was feeling that music, because really I love music, man. I love that release. It's sort of, I've just been reading a lot. in many ways it opens chakra points. It opens my emotion. It opens me up. And, you know, we always use that term, you know, be open, get open, get open. What does that really mean? It can be interpreted so many ways, but really, I learned through those early years to just be open, to just be, you know, unapologetic about the way I move.
So with the last thing that we want to work off of is you mentioned that you being Southeast Asian, you being Cambodian, and you know, I'm Lao. Like we're both Southeast Asian and we have, you know, our respective cultures. We both use that into our dance. Can you explain like how is it that you incorporate like culture into your dance in a way that is natural, that you're doing what you were brought up to do? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, there's two things I'd say. There's one that's a concept, and there's a second thing, it's a physical embodiment. The physical embodiment, my sister, she was an Apsara. She was a Kumite dancer, right? Apsaras were like the royal court dancers. They were the ones who, you know, they dance to the royal court. They have very feminine movement. All of them were played by women. The male characters played by women, the female characters played by women, and it was a very sacred thing, right? So after the genocide happened, some people survived and brought the art over to the States, and then my sister picked up on it. And then I'd see that too. I would come across, they would have these hand movements like this. Even Khmer men, they would dance like this in circles, just very, just like, you know, like very feminine. You do this a lot too, right? So very just feminine, and like, I was like, oh, okay, picking up on that hand signal, right? And she told me something. She told me that there's actually a story behind every single movement. Like this one. I'm not gonna do it right. If there's any like Khmer traditional dancers watching, I'm sorry. All right? But this is very beautiful. It says, from the root, the seed grows and blossoms to the lotus. There's like a lotus petal right there, and fully blossoms out to a full lotus. Like that's the full lotus, you know? And to see that have a story, right? And to see that within these feminine movements inside their hands, I was just sort of analyzing like, yo, that's beautiful. And then I was sort of dealing with this concept of femininity and masculinity and breaking, because breaking is so machismo, so strong, and there is no space for femininity. But I guess by the aid of time and for maturity in the culture, I was able to bring femininity into the dance for myself, because that's how I felt. That was from my culture. That's inside my blood, that's in my root, that was inside my family upbringing, because I'd see it as a kid. Yeah. Like you'll see me sometimes, I'll do like standing like top rock pose, just like, whew, you know what I mean? My hands like are like, these are very feminine hand movements, but I use them to my advantage because it makes me look unique, and it's also my culture in my hands.
Yeah, I mean, feminine in the context of a certain like discourse, you know, feminine in a certain frame of reference, whether it's like where we live in here, you know what I mean? Like it could mean so many different things elsewhere.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the way I feel like there's a disparity between, you know, cultures and how people view it. So that's awesome that you do that. You know, putting hand movements, because I know we kind of work off each other like that. We do routines like that too. So
the other thing though is, I said this in a previous interview, but I think it's important for reiteration. Like through my family's experiences and through my experiences as Southeast Asian, I learned to channel something. It was, in short, I guess it'd be emotion from my past. Not from my life, but from a generation before me. The things that my family went through to get here. You know, surviving genocide, living in slave labor, seeing their family members killed off, coming to the States, having to open up donut shops, living on welfare, and then going through family problems and like all sorts of adjusting to American culture as this lost Cambodian family. That's traumatic, man.
Yeah.
And the fact that my family's happy now, we be kicking it on Christmas and Thanksgiving, is just like, whoa, how the hell did we get here, you know? So my sister has a good word for it. She also came to Cal. She calls it transgenerational trauma. Transgenerational trauma is the trauma passed on to children by their parents. That's why, like, when I meet, like, you know, Saruj and Midas, he's Armenian. His history is with genocide. You know, Pandora, she is, you know, New Style Elements. She's Choctaw and Chickasaw, and Ramayan is half Lakota. All of us have this history of genocide and death and pain and anguish and loss and fear inside our past. But when you see us dance, we dance with genuine emotion. And then for us, for me to conceptually connect that, I was like, yo, when you see me like hit this dubstep track or some track that has like a really good like bass, and I'll just hit it like, you know, and like the emotions in the face, that feeling, that's not just from nowhere. Like my ability to feel that emotion, for me, comes from that transgenerational trauma. You know?
You're not acting the act.
I'm not acting,
It's,
you know?
You're feeling the act.
Exactly.
It's coming out.
And the thing that's beautiful about that is that it doesn't make this dance exclusive to people who come from rough neighborhoods. Like my folks came from a rough ass place, but then my mom and my dad worked so hard and they gave me a good childhood. You know, I wasn't running the streets. I wasn't, you know, I was, you know, faking the funk for a good period in middle school. But after time passed, I was able to have that environment to nurture me into an intellectual, upstanding Cambodian American male that can get me out here to Berkeley and like get my education and engage with the culture the way I have, you know. And the fact that I can dance with genuine emotion in this culture that came from the streets, that came from those Bronx barrios, then, you know, this is open for anybody. It's for all of us who have had a feeling of pain, a feeling of emotion from the past, that we are going to express it through this, because this dance shows us. Now it's time for us to give back to it, but being ourselves.
All right, so before we leave, is there anyone that you want to shout out, or any shout outs that you want to give out?
Yeah, big shouts out to Hybrid Crew, my family, my foundation. Big shouts out to Style Elements Crew, my future. Big shouts out to Originality Stands Alone. You know, big shouts out to Lanster, Eranetik, Shiism, you know, the whole Calamities family. Shout out to Fourth World, Berserkly family. Shout out to my family, my friends, my folks, my peoples. Shout out to the homie Dan Diggity, dressing me up, Southeast Beast. Southeast Asians on the rise, man. The third world comes first. And just big shouts out to everybody being genuine.
Cool. And stay tuned for his B-Boy Minute, which I will post up, you know, hopefully within a week or so. All right, peace. Calamity Corner.